It is a day of celebration for most parts of the country, but in Kolkata, there is a pall of gloom, anger, and sorrow. This, as another doctor has had to be admitted to critical care. That's two doctors now who have developed complications as doctors sit on a hunger strike that has completed 1 week. This in response to failed talks between the West Bengal government and the striking doctors who say not much has substantively changed or been implemented since the Arjikor rape and murder of a young doctor. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo story. While this is an issue that may have fallen off the headlines on other media platforms, here we continue to return to it literally every single day. Two young doctors have now turned critically ill. These are doctors who have been on a hunger strike to protest what they say is the lack of implementation of the changes that were assured to them in the wake of the rape and murder of a young doctor at the Arjikor College. Now, private hospitals and private doctors too are speaking up in solidarity. For 2 days, non essential services at several private hospitals in West Bengal will remain shut. There has been another round of talks between the Mamata Banerjee government and the protesting doctors, but those did not go anywhere. As the rest of the country celebrates, for these doctors, for the medical community, there is not much to celebrate. Where does this protest go from here? What happens next? Let's bring up our guest today. As on a day of Dasera, we look at a day that's supposed to be about the triumph of good over evil. We look at those who are fighting the good fight, but perhaps getting saddened and demoralized by how slow the pace of change is. Joining me is Dr. Raja Dhar. He's been one of the most outspoken voices through this entire time, and it's good to have you back with us, Dr. Dhar. Also joining me is Dr. Simran Jha. She's been a young, outspoken voice, sharing her thoughts as a young female doctor about the pace of change or how little is changing. Also, Dr. Suvrankar Datta is joining us. He's, of course, with the All India Medical Institute, but he's also the president of the FIMA Association. And also joining me is Dr. Urmimala Bhattacharya. Uh, and she is somebody whose husband, if I'm not wrong, is actually one of the doctors who's on that hunger strike. I hope I got that right, Urmi. And thank you very much. And I was just saying in my introduction that it's not a day of festivities for any of you. It's a very different mood from what people everywhere else are perhaps feeling today. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Suvrankar. You could give us an overview of where things stand. When we were last speaking, you and Simran were there, and the doctors were going to meet representatives of the West Bengal government for another round of talks. What happened after that?
Yes, Barkha, the talks were essentially an eyewash from the side of the West Bengal government, and they were essentially told that, and completely verbally, no written assurance was given. They told that yes, we'll look into it. Right now, festival is going on. You guys enjoy the festival, call off your strike. We'll meet after the festivals. So, can you
Hmm.
imagine, like the kind of uh, casual conversation which is happening from the side of the state government in West Bengal? They fail to recognize the importance of addressing the core issues which is affecting the healthcare infrastructure and security in West Bengal's public hospitals. And for them, festivities are assuming more importance than the lives of those doctors who are on an indefinite hunger strike till death, both in Kolkata as well as in North Bengal. We were extremely disappointed in this, and we already have our 10-member national delegation team from all across the country, including AIMS New Delhi, MAMC, RML, and various parts of the country. We are there, we are stationed there. We are regularly in touch with the West Bengal Junior Doctors Front. And I also want to update you that we are taking this nationwide. The AIMS New Delhi RDA and the PGI Chandigarh RDA have already sent a mail and a letter to Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee that in case there is a failure from the government side to even show any kind of effective action and communicate their intent in a written communication with these West Bengal junior doctors, then we will be forced to escalate our strike and protest nationwide. and we might be needing to go for a nationwide strike once again.
Hmm. Let me try and get, before I come to Dr. Dhar, Dr. Urmimala, because your connection doesn't seem to be that stable. I just want to get at least a comment in from you. Your husband or your partner, if I'm not wrong, is one of the doctors who is protesting, who's on at site on that hunger strike. Now, we have seen images of two doctors. Could we play those images, please? Two doctors being actually taken away because we have now a second doctor whose health is not too well, had to be admitted to CCU. Uh, how worried are you when your own partner is there on hunger strike, Urmimala? And what are you feeling today when the rest of the country is actually celebrating a festival?
All of the junior doctors who are in the protest right now, who are maintaining the hunger strike, they are all either our friends or seniors or juniors. They're all known to us. We have been in this struggle for more than 2 months now. So we are all like a family. So we are extremely worried about the health of all the people who are sitting for the strike. At present, we were there. There were 10 of us. Dr. Aniket has already been taken into the ICU. Another friend from North Bengal Medical College, he has also been taken into the ICU. Now 9 remain. So we are very, very scared. We did not expect at any point that the government would be this, they would show this kind of apathy. They have nothing to say, they have nothing to do, and this really pains us.
But are you going to keep going? There was another round of talks, Dr. Urmi. Are you going to keep going? I mean, I can see the trauma on your face. Are you just going to keep going with this level of fear and anxiety?
The thing is that all our friends, they have from day one, if they have decided to go on with the fight, we have been with them. And if they have gone this long, we want them to do what, to be able to be successful in what they started with.
Yeah. Uh, Dr. Dhar, there is a sense, senior doctors have been saying this, that the young doctors have possibly been politically outmaneuvered. They're not politicians. They try to keep the movement to be apolitical, not about party politics. Today, we now know that private hospitals, I think, are suspending non-essential services as well for 2 days. Some private doctors are also showing this solidarity. Where do you see this going from here, Dr. Dhar?
So, Barkha, I think this is a movement which has actually been led by the juniors. And I think that's in itself very unique. It's the senior doctors are actually supporting rather than being the leaders here. And I saw Urmimala on ground zero at Dharmatala a little while ago. And while she is not one of the fasting doctors, the amount of involvement, the amount of dedication, the amount of passion all of these junior doctors have in leading from the front and not giving up is something I have never seen in my lifetime before this. Now you understand that there was a time when the government of West Bengal met our junior doctors. They gave certain positive vibes a little while ago, and the junior doctors actually gave up on the siege work that they were doing, and everyone came back to work. So let's look a little bit into the background as to why the private hospitals have taken the decision that they have in the last couple of days. So post that, we waited for a while. The juniors and the senior, the healthcare fraternity of Bengal waited for a while, and we did not see any translation. We didn't see any effect coming out of the promises that were made at the time. So the junior doctors said that the only way to step this up, given the fact that the government seemed to be harping about festivities, going back to Durga Puja, celebrating, having a carnival, the only thing left to them to escalate the movement was to go on a hunger strike. And they went spontaneously into it. There were multiple doctors who went for the hunger strike, and there were multiple people who were there on ground zero at Dharmatala giving them company. Now, what did the government do? The government tried every trick in the book to stop them from building up even a canopy where they could actually rest. They didn't have a bed, they didn't have mattresses, they didn't have a chair, they were not allowed water for a period of time. That's the degree of aggression, that was the degree of the obstacles that they had to overcome to reach the stage that they've reached now. Now, there was a conversation like you alluded to, but the conversation was worth nothing. It actually translated into nothing at all. So, what would the private doctors do? So, you remember that the junior doctors did not continue with the C's work even after calling a second C's work, because us senior doctors said that we have a mass movement, we have general people who are a part of the movement, and hence we cannot let them suffer. Please do not go into C's work. And they were graceful enough to actually withdraw the C's work again and go back to work. However, the only thing that seemed to be working was the C's work, because at least the government was amenable to having conversations at the time. So
Right.
we have now moved forward. The hunger strike has gone on for 7 days. These young kids have been struggling without food. Alok in North Bengal has again been taken into ICU with what looks like an acute renal shutdown, an acute kidney shutdown. His creatinine is up. He's got ketones in his urine. So, and so are some of the boys and girls who are at Dharmatala.
Mm.
So, what
Yeah.
can we do to support them? So, the government has put our backs against the wall. Unless we
Hmm.
do something to support these kids, there is going to be no reaction from the government, and we'll have lives lost now, which is why the private sector has now decided to join hands, not, of course, involve the emergency services anyway, but at least go for non-emergency pen down starting from the 14th and then going on. We know that our common people would suffer, and our heart really pains because of that. We are doctors, we want to see patients. That's what we have done day in and day out. But unless we take this step, we cannot see any other move which might lead to a conversation again, an exchange of dialogue again, which might result in success with the 10-point
Mhm.
agenda, a lot of which that involve the general public. The agenda is not about healthcare workers or junior doctors or senior doctors. It's about the threat culture prevalent, not just in Bengal, maybe, but in other states. It is to do with female security. It's to do with doctors and their workplace and their training needs. All of that involves beyond healthcare, it involves every sector. And we are left with no option to try and get to speak across the table at the moment.
You mentioned that lives could be endangered now, the lives of the doctors on protest, and therefore it's become the need of the hour to do something, and hence the non-essential services are also being suspended so that at least the government takes this protest or more gravely or more seriously. Uh, Elaborate on that. 7 days a hunger strike. What's the impact on, we already know that two of the doctors are critical. What are you
Sure.
fearing?
So I think this is the most rigorous hunger strike ever, Barkha. You have to understand that. So the boys and girls have been taking water, and that too in medicated amounts, mainly with medicines, etc. I saw one of Urmi's colleagues having an asthma attack day before yesterday, where we started
Hmm.
her on medications. She's on antibiotics, bless her, without actually having any food at all. That's the sort involvement we have. They wouldn't take any fruit juice. They wouldn't have anything aside, not even oral rehydration. The ORS solutions that are available, they wouldn't take that either. So the level to which they can tolerate hunger, thirst, dehydration is going to be far lower as compared to others. So 7 days, 8 days is a very long time, Barkha. And the natural sequence of events would be loss of protein in the urine in the form of ketones. There's going to be renal shutdown. The creatinine, the urea will start rising, and the other organ systems will start packing in. There's been weight loss in these kids. And you understand the frustration for people like ourselves, doctors in the
Yeah.
senior category. A lot of us, including myself, we've not had any food for 12 hours during the daytime for a while now. And the reason is not just solidarity, it's just because the helpless feeling that gnaws into us, seeing our youngsters not eating and drinking because of a cause which is common to all of us. It's not their personal cause that we are fighting for. It's a cause which involves the entire city, the state, the country, is extremely frustrating, Barkha. And I think we have to join hands with them in fasting, in trying to do a pen down for periods of trying to get people across the table and speak about our demands.
Dr. Simran, as a young doctor, again, there's nothing festive about this day for any of you. I can see on Urmi's face the deep trauma that she's facing, that all of you are feeling. Dr. Dhar called it helplessness. The cynics say the country, the other people who are not doctors, they've moved on. And that's what the government is counting on. The government is counting on the fact that public memory is short-lived, news cycles change rapidly. You know, सब भूल गए हैं करने दो बैठने दो let them protest. What do you how do you cope with that kind of cynicism when you feel that your story isn't being told with the same fierceness anymore?
Right. So a few things. So when I had gone out, like outside of Shastra Bhavan, when we were there, right, we could see the outpouring of public support. At the day of Ashtami, when there is lines of people at the pandals, you could see the visuals that came out of Dharmatala. If you go there once at the peak of Durga Puja, there are hundreds of people who are standing with the doctor. So the government trying to put out this narrative that most people are busy in festivities, that's just one section of the society. The other section of the society stands tall with doctors, and they always will, right? Because this is not just about us. You could have seen there are visuals of blood-stained gloves being coming into RG Core. There are visuals of our NS bottles having fungus. And when a patient falls sick because of that, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is to go and beat up the doctors. We have had enough of that over the years. A colleague of ours has already been has succumbed to a heinous crime. I wouldn't say succumb because it was an active crime that was, carried out against her. That was also a result of threat culture. And all of this that we continue to face, the patient parties continue to face, all of that is a byproduct of this threat culture, right? Now, coming back to your question, the public memory being short-lived, like Dr. Dhor said, all of us, we went back to work because we were gracious enough. It was the time of Durga Puja. Now, how, like I said in my last, last time I was here as well, like the hunger strike was the last resort that we had in a democracy, right? There was nothing else that was left for us to do. We've gone to rallies, we've called for a cease work as doctors. We have to go to work now. Like the senior doctors, they have come in, they've handed over their resignations, and they have said, look, if the government wants a complete collapse of the healthcare system, they can accept that. But we have not shut down our services. Our services are still there.
Can you tell me, because the pictures are on the screen about these bloodstained gloves? A lot of people may
Yeah.
not have followed this. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the gloves that come in, right? So if I'm supposed to go and take blood of a particular patient, I'm supposed to glove myself, and that's supposed to be like, say, like these are not sterile ones, but they're sterile gloves as well. At this point, what we look at is a mockery of the healthcare system right in front of you. These are blood, right? So it could be Hep B, Hep C, HIV, anything that could spread to me, that could spread to the patient. So this is the kind of, so when we say our protest is not just for us, of course, first being the justice, but it's also for the people. We want a better healthcare system overall. We want transparency in our system. We want corrupt bodies to go out. We want proper elections. We want a much more transparent system where not just, doctors, but also for the better of the people and for the health. And people who understand that, Barkha, are there with us. So the fasting might be done for 10 doctors. What they are doing is just not a favor to like just the doctor community, but to the entire society as a whole.
I think Dr. Dhar is wanting to come in, and then I'll come to Urmi. Yeah, Dr. Dhar.
Just very quickly in continuation what Simran said, I think it's important to understand that while the city of Kolkata and the state of Bengal have been staunchly beside us, common people have come in, there has been a strange nihilism, a lack of understanding throughout the country. When we started this movement, the entire country was with us. There used to be nothing else seen on news channels. And of course, Barkha, you and the Mojo Story have continued to do this throughout the time. But unfortunately, I think the remaining national press has been absent. We've not seen them. And hence the support that we had from the entire country for an issue like this, an emotive issue like this, has been lacking. The other important thing which I'll quickly mention, which Simran said, which I think strikes a chord, is the fact that you understand that the doctors are the face of healthcare. So whether it's a torn gloves, whether it's a housekeeping misbehaving with patients, whether it's the lack of a medication, it's the doctors who get beaten up. However, this is all controlled by administration, which we have seen in the past few weeks and months as to how corrupt the entire system is. So the appeal is against that too. So it's for the patients, it's for the community, it's for the people. And unless we manage to sort this out to some degree once and for all, we're never going to get back to a system where the patient-doctor relationship goes back to where it should be.
I want to come to you, Dr. Savrankar. In many ways, the reason it became a national issue, one was, of course, how powerful, how people led the movement was. Two, the horror of what happened. Three, the role of us in the media making sure that it was amplified. But one of the key reasons was that all of you doctors across India were also part of this. Once you all went back to work, perhaps the capacity to put it on the national map diminished. And I'm wondering what you're thinking about that. Do you think that also was a turning point, Dr. Datta?
Yes, Barkha, um, we came to support the West Bengal junior doctors right on the first day when they decided to cease work, when the heinous murder and rape of our colleague happened in West Bengal. We were there on strike for 12 days, and we only went back to a temporary halt of our movement nationwide just because the Chief Justice of India had requested us to go back to work because
Hmm.
patients were suffering, as well as because he did some kind of effective action in the form of creation of a national task force which was supposed to give recommendations to us as to what should be done to look into the security lapses and infrastructure of the healthcare system across the country. Sadly, however, we have seen that none of the recommendations of the NTF, it has been 2 months now since the event happened, and it has been more than 3 weeks since the Supreme Court hearing happened. However, we have failed to see any solid implementation of anything on ground in any part of the country. Only thing what we have seen is that, and also being a part, is that there have been meetings, regional meetings with various stakeholders, with subcommittees of the NTF. That also only one of the four subcommittees have had a meeting with us till now. So we are gradually going, like, becoming impatient, and all across the country we assure the doctors of Bengal that we are with them. We are very closely monitoring the situation. We have a mega meeting today evening with RDAs and junior doctor associations all across the country to decide on an unified nationwide action plan if the state government fails to listen to the demands of the doctors who are on an indefinite hunger strike till death. In fact, I, along with a 10-member delegation, as you know, we are already at the protest site in Bengal, and we are continuously giving all the updates to the national team and the RDS across the country. And we are
Yeah.
ensuring that all the news reaches. However, as our senior doctor here already told, there has been a significant lack of interest from the national media, which is very sad, to be honest, because this is something which is uh, it has not happened for a, I don't know last time doctors went on an indefinite hunger strike. It's not a political hunger strike. It's not something which has any political gains or benefit for them, but it's for the people of the state. And we were hoping that the national media will be covering this so that the center government also takes note of that, so that this reaches the Chief Justice of
Hmm.
India. However, their lack of interest has now forced us to give our final warning of escalation to Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, and we are very closely following what is happening in the Supreme Court hearing as well. And we are going to go for a nationwide action plan either on the 14th of October or on the 15th of October if, number one, the state government fails to accept the demands, which, in all of our opinion, can be met by a directive from the state government in a single day, or if there is no justice for our victim in the Supreme Court hearing on 14th October.
Okay. That's very, very clear. Let me give the last word to Dr. Urvi Mala. Urvi, are you still hopeful? Are you still hopeful that before any, God forbid, no one, Dr. Dhar has warned that, two doctors are critically ill. No lives should be lost at this hunger strike. And those would be my prayers today. Just a last thought from you.
Yes, ma'am. There were two things when we started this hunger strike. There was one reaction from general people, and the other from the government. So, with
Hmm.
respect to reaction from the general people, each and every single day, since day one in Dharmatala, we are seeing mothers and sisters and grandmothers. They are all coming, crying. They are not being able to eat at their homes, and such huge number of people have gathered in the evenings all throughout the day. They're sitting here. Some are also with us in the protest. They are also maintaining some sort of hunger strike for 24 hours or 12 hours. So from general people, we are getting enormous amount of response, although we are absolutely unsure what is taking the government so long to give us certain such very basic things. These we cannot actually call these are demands. These were the things that should have already been in the system. They were promised 5 years ago when there was another friend of our, Poribaho, who had been hit in the head. He had a fracture. At that point, we had a meeting with the Honorable Chief Minister in her office. She promised all these basic things at that very point. After that,
Yeah.
5 years on, these things have not been implemented, and these are absolutely responsible for the horrible situation of the doctors in the hospital front, because we have to face the relatives of the patients who are in grief. So it is very important that the system takes care of certain such things, and we have given certain ideas about it, and these are very simple directives to be taken care of. It only needs, I believe, a meeting of an hour or two. So I do not think it has to be dealt with after the festivities, because it is absolutely important. If so many people are coming to Dharmatala, if so many people are concerned about this, I do not know why our chief minister is not. I have no answer to that.
Well, those are the mounting questions. All I will say is that on this festival day for the rest of the country, there are two young doctors who, as Dr. Dhar pointed out, they're not sitting on a hunger strike because they're personally going to benefit from it. They're doing it for something larger. They're doing it for the entire community. And I think that's something for all of us to internalize. You know, I will, yeah, Dr. Dhar.
So
Dr. Dhar.
one quick word. I was very enthused by what you said, Suvrankar. But just a fervent appeal, not just from the junior doctors, but for the doctor community in Bengal. Please do come and be by our side. This is a time when we should all be together. The country should be fighting. And if you guys come together, the media will come. You know, it will come, and we'll all be together. So it's just an appeal on Barkha's platform today to tell you that we need the nation to be us during these difficult times.
Suvrankar, if you'd like to respond. Suvrankar.
There with you. I have been visiting the site for the last 4 days. I have in fact met Dr. Urmi. I know the protesters for a long time, since they have been with us as a part of the national forums for a long time, and we are all there with you. In fact, the major reason why we are deciding to come for a nationwide plan is because the national media, the central government, and the Supreme Court till now has not paid heed to the plight of the doctors, and we feel that this is high time that they need to take
I,
care
I, I,
of
I,
our
I do
young doctors.
I do believe, and comments are coming in. We stand with our doctors in the medical fraternity. Our heart goes out to doctors and the healthcare professionals. I do believe, Suvrankar, that one of the turning points for this movement was the national mobilizing capacity of doctors everywhere. And when that went away in some ways. It should not have been like that. The national media stepped back as well. I don't know. So I'll be curious to see what you do next. Of course, you have to balance it with the fact that you owe your duties to other people, common people. But I think, as Dr. Dhar points out, with backs against the wall, there's no other way to get politicians to listen, to governments to listen. I hope no more fasting doctors are critical. We are prayers for those, the two who are. Thank you, Dr. Dhars, Dr. Simran, Dr. Suvrankar, and Dr. Urmimala, and we will continue to follow this issue. Thank you for joining us this Dasera afternoon, especially on a holiday and following this. Thank you very much and take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work.
If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.